Hey guys, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to talk about Section 230 because it's been in the news for the last 24 to 48 hours, and a lot of people really don't understand what Section 230 is and why President Trump actually wants to repeal it, revoke it, or kill it. And so I wanted to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly here with Section 230, and it's something I think we all need to really understand, especially if you're in America, and even if you're outside of America. Section 230 may be giving you shelter in a way that you don't necessarily understand. And so I want to dive into here. Now, as I mentioned, you may have recently heard that President Trump signed an executive order yesterday to essentially revoke Section 230 rights from social media platforms, and also tweeted about it saying, and I quote, "Twitter is doing nothing about all of the lies and propaganda being put out by China or the radical left Democrat Party. They have targeted Republicans, conservatives, and the President of the United States. Section 230 should be revoked by Congress. Until then, it will be regulated." Now, with that, like I said, I wanted to discuss Section 230, where it comes from, what basically the good, the bad, and the ugly are, and in terms of the First Amendment, basically it is guaranteeing our right to expression and why that is happening. So with that, let's go to the basics of this, and we have to start in 1996 when President Clinton at the time signed into law the Communications Decency Act of 1996, or CDA. Now, Section 230 of the CDA, which is what we're talking about, states, and I quote, "No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider." Now, in other words, online platforms that host or republish user speech, meaning your speech, my speech, etc., are protected against a range of laws that might otherwise be used to hold them legally responsible for what you or I say on their platform. Now, the protected intermediaries include internet service providers like Comcast, AT&T, Time Warner, etc., but also a range of, and I quote, "interactive computer service providers," which includes basically any online service that publishes third-party content. You are watching this on YouTube or possibly LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. These are the platforms we're talking about. I am third-party content. They are publishing me. So by virtue of that, if I were to do something criminal on one of these platforms like Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, etc., 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 such as live streaming a crime, Twitter and Facebook are actually not held liable for my criminal acts because they didn't help me foster the crime. If they helped me foster the crime and supported me, that would be a different story. But if I'm just live streaming me robbing a bank or shooting somebody, they are not liable for that because, again, Section 230 gives them that protection. But think about this for a second, though. Given the sheer size of user-generated content, Facebook has billions of users. YouTube users are uploading hundreds of hours of video every single minute. It's literally infeasible for these online intermediaries to prevent objectionable content from cropping up on their site. Even with AI running 24/7 to filter this, there's always a human element involved in filtering this content. So things like live streaming a shooting rampage, which happened in New Zealand last year, are going to go live regardless of these controls, and they are trying to shut these things down as fast as possible, but these things leak through. Now, Section 230 also offers its legal shield to bloggers who act as intermediaries by hosting comments on their blogs. Under the law, bloggers are not liable for comments left by readers, the work of guest bloggers, tips sent via email, or information received through RSS feeds. The legal protection can still hold even if a blogger is aware of the objectionable content or makes editorial judgments on that. So in other words, if I have a blog and it is overrun by horrible, horrible things, I am not liable, for that questionable or objectionable content, since I'm not the one that actually published it. I'm just using that platform. But most countries don't have laws like this. And so Section 30 makes the United States a safe haven for websites that want to provide a platform for controversial or political speech and a legal environment favorable to free expression. And that is true. There's a lot of countries in the world that simply don't have this, and so they are turning to Facebook to get news, to publish what they want. And because Facebook is a US-based company, they are actually getting shelter there in that way, which is something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. And so that's the good that Section 230 does. It offers a shield for the freedom of expression online, and it ensures we have platforms to express ourselves freely and controversially. And these platforms are not liable for almost everything that we do there, with notable exceptions like human trafficking, child abuse, and some other things. We are pretty much free to do and say what we want. Now, let's talk about the bad side of Section 230 for a moment, and this is the primary argument that President Trump, I think, is making overall. Now, let's bring this back to what he said, because one of the arguments against Section 230 is that it has allowed these platforms to proliferate demonstrably false information. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, I'm just saying this generically. Conspiracy theories, fake news, state-sponsored actors, etc., can basically post whatever they want, whether it's hyperbolic, incendiary, etc. And historically, these major platforms like Facebook, Twitter, etc., have basically let them do this almost completely unchecked. And this has basically allowed fake news, conspiracy theories, etc., to spread both organically through humans resharing all of this, as well as artificially through the use of bots or scripts that basically are designed to spread whatever message the owner of the bot wants. Now, compound this with the fact that there are privately held corporations that have the ability to police their platforms, because that's what they are. They are privately held corporations. Their shareholders own them. So they have the ability to police their platforms as they see fit, and then combine that with the fact that they are taking a beating in the general public for not policing misinformation, especially since the 2016 election, with a healthy percentage of the population that thinks their political views are actually being censored by these platforms, and have brought lawsuits to this effect, one of which was just tossed out the other day. Now, therefore, these platforms seem to be straddling the fence basically as a free-for-all town hall where all opinions are welcome, which would make them a de facto public utility in that sense. And now they are filtering and fact-checking because they are a private corporation, and they are doing this to combat fake news, which is perceived as censorship by some. Section 32, therefore, could be seen as needless since these platforms are private, and deciding to start filtering altogether, and there you go. And I think that is actually kind of missing the boat. But those are the two sides of the coin here, and there are more intricacies than this in this debate, but those are the two big things, the two big camps that are really forming here. So the question then becomes, what happens if the U.S. government repeals Section 230? In a nutshell, rather than face potential liability for their users' actions, most platforms like Facebook and Twitter would likely not host any of our content, or they would actually have to protect themselves in some way by being actively engaged in censoring what we say, what we see, what we do online, and all of that, because they don't have the shelter of Section 230. So if President Trump, who is angered that one of his tweets was actually fact-checked by Twitter, repeals Section 230, and if you recall, that tweet was about mail-in ballots, and Twitter had put something there that says, let's fact-check mail-in ballots, and linked to an article on it, which obviously angered the president. If President Trump was to have Congress repeal Section 230, Twitter would actually have to clamp down harder and censor or remove tweets from the president as soon as Twitter deemed that the president's tweet violated their terms of service. So that would make it actually more difficult. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't realize too is that if we remove Section 230 and that umbrella, that is going to kill competition as well, because only the massive corporations that are worth billions of dollars like Facebook, Twitter, etc., are going to have the financial resources to hire the army of censors that are going to have to look through absolutely everything to pay the bill for the power that the artificial intelligence is going to need to filter and censor, not to mention, let's say, a drop-off in that free expression because users are just not going to be inclined to post nearly as much. So that is a very serious thing as well that we have to consider if Congress and President Trump were to repeal this. And at the end of the day, in a free and open society, we really do have to take the good with the bad. I mean, we have to take the fake news with the real news. We just have to hope that we can educate enough people on how to spot it, and I think that's really one of the biggest things as well. Reading both sides of the coin, understanding, what we should be doing. Everybody should be taking a debate and logic class at some point so that we can see both sides of this. And so that is your news of the day. That is Section 230 in a nutshell, and I think a lot of people just don't understand that, and hopefully now you do. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick A. ESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.